Mika, I want to respond to your question about is Michael going to be able to get any of this when he testifies in front of Congress. The answer is no. The one thing, obviously, they had to clear this through Mueller before he can go before Congress. And the one ground rule is there is nothing he can answer as it pertains to the Russian investigation. That does not mean that's not going to be must-see TV, and I think a lot of people's heads are going to be spun in many, 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 many circles. Let's just remember a few things. This is one nugget. One nugget. Let's think about 70 hours of Michael speaking. Let's think about the dozens of hours of Hope Hicks. And on and on and on and on. And none of these people are going to be lying to Bob Mueller to save their own hide. So it is going to be stunning, this level of lying, this level of obstruction. Speaking of obstruction, it's only a day later, and I don't want to leave the story. All the things that Trump has done, it is one of the most heinous. 2 days ago when Trump went on TV and threatened Michael Cohen's father-in-law, that is obstruction. I'll tell you why it's obstruction, because I was on the phone with Michael. And Michael's first reaction was, I'm not testifying. I can't do this. They're going after my family, my innocent father-in-law. So if that's not obstruction, and he will testify. But that is the level that Donald Trump would go through. So the fact that he told Trump to lie to Congress about the tower, there is nothing he wouldn't do. And you saw it on display when he went after his father-in-law. So this is the tip of the iceberg for a president that is going down hard.
And at the center of this is President Trump's business dealings with Russia, specifically this Trump Tower Moscow. Law enforcement sources tell BuzzFeed News President Trump and his family knew details of Michael Cohen's efforts for that Moscow Tower deal, and that Trump was made aware of Cohen's contacts with Kremlin officials. And yet, this is what the newly elected president told the American people in January of 2017.
I have no deals in Russia. I have no deals that could happen in Russia because we've stayed away. I have nothing to do with Russia. To the best of my knowledge, no person that I deal with does. I have no investments in Russia, none whatsoever. I don't have property in Russia. A lot of people thought I owned office buildings in Moscow. I don't have property in Russia. And I am I'm in total compliance in every way.
So at least the last of those two claims we saw were him as president of the United States, February and May of 2017. The first one was during the transition in January of 2017. Let's go back one further to the debate on October 9th, 2016, when he said in response to Hillary Clinton's claims and her curiosity about what his ties were with Russia, he said, "I know nothing about the inner workings of Russia. I don't deal there. Business there. I have no loans from Russia." That's candidate Trump in October of 2016.
Well, and according to this BuzzFeed story, which is an amazing piece of reporting, and if I had to bet, I would bet that this piece of reporting will definitely be verified. Donald Trump was even considering taking a trip as a candidate after the Republican debate to Russia to oversee the completion of this project and to get this on the books and to go forward. So this was certainly a priority with then candidate Trump, who was running for president of the United States. So if he was considering upending his candidate travel schedule, this was a priority. And I think that looking forward, Donald Trump has chipped away at his strongest support with so many chips falling. You have Paul Manafort, you have Mike Flynn, you have his lawyer, Michael Cohen, and even Donald Trump's strongest supporters who want to stick with him. You start to look at how many people are in trouble, and politically, it's getting more tenuous for Donald Trump.
So Jonathan Swan of Axios is with us. Want to know what you're hearing about this story. It's still unfolding, broke late last night. But if this story is right, based on two federal law enforcement sources at this point through BuzzFeed, this doesn't implicate just the president, Jonathan. It implicates his son and daughter. But that would then raise the question as to why Mueller hasn't spoken to them, wouldn't it?
Right, but there's a few things here. So firstly, one thing I've been chasing for a while is has Mueller spoken to Don Jr. or Ivanka? Because it's often stated as a fact that he hasn't. And I don't know one way or another, and frankly, neither do defense attorneys that I talk to who are close to the matter. So I don't want to say definitively that he hasn't. The two things in this story that are intriguing people the most in Trump's Number one is the very specific sourcing note at the top 2 federal law enforcement officials. But it's not just that. The next, it goes on to say, involved in the investigation of the matter. So I listened to Benjamin Wittes before saying that it doesn't necessarily mean Mueller. He doesn't think it's from Mueller's team. I'd be curious to know what that, if we take BuzzFeed at their word on that sourcing attribution, what else that could encompass. And the second part of it is that very critical paragraph, which is the corroboration paragraph at the Trump Organization, because it talks about emails and text messages. Obviously, we know, I know from my own reporting, President Trump doesn't use email. He doesn't text. It's one of the things that helps him most in all of this. So I'd be curious to know, and I'm sure we all are, what that email traffic involves. Is it the children discussing things with others? I don't know. For example, John Podhoretz mentioned Alan Weisselberg. I know he's talking to the Southern District of New York, but I don't have any evidence that Weisselberg's actually spoken to Mueller. That's a separate investigation. So there are so many questions circulating about this report.
So, Donnie, we also have to factor into this the human element. That's the relationship Michael Cohen and Donald Trump have on a personal level. And I think this is another reminder, as was the Stormy Daniels payment, that Michael Cohen does not freelance for Donald Trump, that he doesn't act without Donald Trump's knowledge, that he takes his orders from Donald Trump. He takes the payment and passes it along. Michael Cohen's not out here making business deals on his own without the president telling him what to do, checking in the process, and now perhaps, according to BuzzFeed, telling him how to handle the fallout.
For instance, a story, once again, just 2 days old, about the polling polling that he got involved in, and Michael said he was directed. Michael is going to show proof of that.
Yeah.
These are none of these things that Michael, and they are all wrong. They are all for Trump, directed by Trump. Trump, in the history of business, is one of the #1 micro managers. So, and Rudy Giuliani could say all he wants. Michael Cohen is a liar. Michael Cohen is this. There will be proof. And there will be proof for many, many, many of these things. This is not a freelance operation.
Okay, Benjamin Wittes, we really appreciate your coming in this morning and collecting your thoughts. Before you go, give us a sense of what, as we follow this story, what are the questions we're looking at going into today?
Right. So first of all, look for other news organizations to match the story. One of the sure signs of when a story is going to pan out and when it's not is when multiple news organizations get it. When you have one hanging out here like that, it always causes you to raise the question, hey, how are we sure this is right? I have a lot of confidence in these two reporters, but I do want to see other news organizations validate their reporting before I conclude for sure that this is true. Number two, I do think, a key question going forward is going to be the one you guys were just talking about, which is this Michael Cohen's word that this happened, or is this something that is Michael Cohen validating what is clear from a documentary